What's going on, guys? All right, this is finally the assembly video, the new revamped assembly video for the Remington 1858. Now that I offer it in resin, I also took the opportunity to make a few little changes to it, kind of the same way that I did my Peacemaker and the Navy kit. Pretty much minor internal changes, and I know some of you guys have been sitting with your resin kit for a week or so waiting for me to shoot this video, and I very much apologize for that. Between Halloween and everything else, it just says I need two of me. I really do. But anyways, so basically this is the same assembly as the previous video. The difference is I'm going to cover the few change. Well, I'm going to cover the whole thing, but I'll point out the couple changes that I made. And on top of it, this is also the resin version, which if you look at the resin version, it's just as nice and silky smooth as can be. Very minor cleanup. I mean, you know, even if you end up somewhere where you need to sand, this stuff sands so beautifully. It's really awesome. This is a resin that I spent a lot of time and money working with a company to basically a formula that was kind of in between a bunch of different formulas to increase the flexibility and the strength. I mean, it's as strong as can be. And it's got really good impact resistance. And that was the thing that I found out with Dylan looking at a lot of the existing resins, is they were like high impact resistance. And what they evidently mean by impact resistance is take a board, lay on top of it, hit the board, and look, it survived. What I mean when I say impact resistance is the shock impact. So dropping, you know, the shock wave is what normally ends up just killing resin prints and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there, but whatever. So anyways, did all that. And the resin kits are really awesome. The reduction in the amount of finishing time that you have to spend on the parts and stuff, and worrying about, you know, getting too much primer or whatever in a place here or there, greatly reduced. This actually is one of the, when I was doing testing, making sure that the resin and all that stuff, the specs for all the internal stuff was still the you know, same, and everything functioned like it should, and you know, we're all good to go. Now this is the black powder version. I do also offer the 45 cal converted, like Clint Eastwood style version, which, you know, has the blah brain work here. Come on. The 45 cal conversion has the cartridge style chamber, where this one is the black powder style. But you know, it's got all the little, if you notice, like, just how just beautifully smooth all this is, and all the details are so crisp and stuff in it. So what we're going to do is, I guess we're going to get started, and we're just going to build all the inside stuff. And actually, you know what, I'll point out one of the bigger changes that I've done. Let me get these all these dowel pins and stuff dumped out here. One of the bigger changes I've done is there used to be a half length, matter of fact, there used to be one of these springs that pushed up on the bottom bolt here, where the bolt goes into the bottom that catches the cylinder. It used to go into the bottom of the bolt, and the corresponding hole went into the trigger guard, which I need to go grab the trigger guard just a second. Okay, I'm back. And as most of y'all may have pointed out, hey, he's losing his mind. My trigger guard's sitting right here, literally. I walked over to my table where I was putting all the kit stuff in the bag. I'm like, where the heck is my trigger guard? And my brain was on Peacemaker a while ago doing something, and you know, the Peacemaker trigger guard comes down and it's all part of the front frame. But anyways, you'll notice the trigger guard here still has a hole in it. I've actually, this was all my first, you know, test printing stuff. The new trigger guard won't have the hole in it. But even if one of the kits that you guys received has the hole, it's just there. But that's where this spring would set and pushed up against the bolt. And that's not needed anymore, because what I've done is, through a lot of testing, these FDM printed flat springs will go in just kind of like the original, like the real one does, and it goes in there. And don't get mad at me, I used an Allen button screw, an Allen head, to put that in there, because I hate flat blade screws with a passion, because all I do is slip off all the time and damage whatever I'm trying to screw the stuff into. But if you notice, there's like this little horseshoe shaped little ridge that goes around here, and there's a matching ridge that sets down, and you put that face down in there, and we'll tighten all that down, but we'll do that when we get there. The load lever, that was the first change, the bolt spring. The other one was, instead of a big spring being in here, what I've done is I've gone to a smaller spring that goes down in here for the latch. I got these springs made for some other kits I've been designing, and I was like, you know what? This is what I needed back then. Nothing wrong with the other one. It makes life like a lot easier, and the other one was a lot stronger than it needed to be. And so our little dude goes in here and, you know, does his thing and stuff. So so what we're going to do here is, what am I going to do? We'll just start with the inside here real quick. Sorry, this is like my 4th assembly video today, and I've been working on my Weebly Army, the Weebly Green, which it's just about done, and it's sitting over there, and I might make a short little video about it here in a little bit. It's really freaking cool. But so what we're going to do, let me get some of these parts out of the way here. Some of y'all on the other kits, if you're familiar with it, and on this one, if this is your first one, I've already glued this together. But if you notice, there's the hand and a handspring. And all you're going to do is glue this handspring to the back of this hand. You'll just put just a little bit of glue, like right back here. And there's like a little notch in this hand where this spring, you know, sets up against. And that's all we're looking for right there. You don't want to run a bunch of glue down there or have a bunch of glue pulled up in the little V. That's all we're looking for, is that right there. That's our hand that actually rotates and clocks the cylinder for us. But what we're going to do is get our hammer real quick. And let me get the rest of this stuff out of the way. I'm really not prepared for this, guys, as you can tell. And that's our barrel latch and all that good stuff. Actually, if we want to go ahead and put our front sight on, we can go ahead and put our front sight on our barrel real quick. For those of y'all who haven't built one of these kits yet or watched one of my other assembly videos, I use a CA glue, which it's basically a 2-part really thick, slow setting super glue and an activator that pretty much instantly sets it. I use this because it reduces the oh shit moments when you're gluing something together and it's not quite right and you need to move it, but the glue already started setting. This allows a little bit of time and manipulation of the part before you spray it with activator. This brand is a brand that I've been using for a number of years now. I've used a bunch of different brands, but this is like literally the most consistent brand that I've used. And luckily now I'm able to offer it. I've got it on my website if you guys need some. Let's go ahead and on our barrel, we have a notch forward and a notch rear. The rear is going to be for the load lever latch, and the front is going to be for our front sight. And I've got a little bit of glue there. Don't need. I'm just putting a dot, because remember, when you put your sight, it's going to squish, and you don't want to squish it out everywhere. But just set your sight in there and use your fingers on both sides to square it in the center. And once it's set, you can just hit it with a little bit of activator. Maybe if I could actually spray it and hit it. But I mean, just look at the details of that. That's beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And of course, when you get ready to put the barrel on, it just slides in and you'll glue it in here and it will glue and notch right there. But while we're at this, we're going to go ahead and take our load lever latch. Now we want to glue the load lever latch on to where the hook of the latch is facing backwards, because of course the load lever will go up and latch into that. So I'm going to take that. We're just going to put a dot in here because again, it'll squish everywhere. And we're going to take our dude and we're going to set it in there. And the thing I'll warn you guys about, using activator and stuff. Like I sprayed the front sight to set it. You want to make sure that it's completely evaporated before you start gluing another part, because the fumes from it will start activating the glue, and you will run out of time before you know it. So there's our barrel assembled. There's our front sight. There's the rear latch. Load lever latch. Holy moly. So we got our trigger. Hammer, trigger. Now the trigger and the hand and all the internal springs, they are still FDM printed. And I did that for longevity, for wear and stuff, because the FDM handles against the wearing and the repeated bending and the clicking better than the resin does. The resin is extremely tough, but it will wear down small edges, and especially in here when you've got stuff that's got to click past and keep rubbing and stuff, you're best off just doing it, so basically on the outside, the only thing you'll have that's FDM printed is the trigger sticking out here. That's like on this trigger guard's FDM printed trigger, hammer, just from me testing and stuff. So what we're going to need here is, let's sort through our dowel pins real quick. Let's see. There's there's 4 different size dowel pins. Let me find the one for the load lever. That's not it. All right. So we will have our bolt that we need to go ahead and drop in here. And it drops in with this part of the bolt going over the edge down there, so that when you hold it, you've got it popped up through there. What I'm going to need to do is, let me straighten these screws out here for you guys so you can kind of see what I've got here. I got a mess is what I got. You're going to need the longer of the thin screws, and that's going to go in there. And if you notice, it passes through. So that gap right there is going to be where we put our trigger in here. So, but I just wanted you to see, it'll go through and come to this side and start screwing in. So we're going to take our trigger and we're going to set it right there. And I just hold like a little tension over to the side a little bit. And we're going to jiggle that around until we get it to go through both of them, and get my old tried and true super duper old flat blade screwdriver here. And we're just going to take that in. We don't want to tighten it a bunch and squeeze the frame. We want everything to move nice and free and stuff. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my flat bolt spring there, and I'm going to grab me a little Allen here that fits this little dude, and go ahead and put this in here. We will kind of snug it just a bit, and if you see, it sits flat like the on the real one does. Comes up flat right there, nice and cut. And if you take this, you can sneak all that through there, and this will bolt on. That's what this last flat blade screw is for, is how to bolt that in there. You know, and I'm probably wondering, it's only been like a week since I assembled one of these, and like I said, I've been working on so many other assembly videos and measurements and props. Hang on, let me just, there. What we can do is, let me get, I promise you guys I'm not normally this scatterbrained, but I've been needing to do this for so long for you guys that it's been waiting on me, and I feel bad about that. And let me get my head straight here. So dowel pin for there, we've got the longer dowel pin will be for load lever 1, load lever 2, dowel pin, dowel pin, screw holds that in. So we got 1, 2 dowel pins there for our load lever. That's our load lever. This is going to be for our front of the load lever. All right. So now the reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to put these all side by side and tell you guys which one you'll want to use. If you do them the old antenna style symbol, you want this one right here. This second to the shortest is the one that we're looking for. The rest of these are going to be for the load lever over here. What this is going to do is, on your hammer, there's a hole right here. Now that goes in there, and our hand goes on top of here, which I may need to clean my hand out a little bit. Nope, there we go. That will go on there. Now, unlike on a Colt, like on a Peacemaker or a Navy, this dowel pin does not get affixed in here, because to take this back apart, put it together and take it apart, if you notice there's a pass-through hole here, and how you get it back apart, you have to push this through the top. Okay, so this is how you, on a Remington, you're going to push this. You know what, let me get this out of the way here. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo everything that we did. Not like it was a bunch, but anyways. Sorry. So before we set that down in there, take your bigger of the screws, the bigger, longer one. No, not that big, long one. The one of the big ones, but the shorter of the two. We want to make sure that it passes through our hammer without any like snagging or anything. We want to just kind of go through there nice and smooth. We're going to take this hammer and we push it down, and you see that we've got the little hole sticking out. What we have to do is kind of pull it back here, because this little groove right here is where we put our hand with the spring in it, and we're going to push that up. And what we have to do is we have to line that up, and we have to push this dowel pin and hold our tongue just right. I'm trying to get it to where you guys can see. Basically, we got to get it right over the hole that's in that hammer. hard for me to see and keep you guys in the light here as well. Come on, where's the hole at? There we go. All right. So we push it in flush with the hand, and it goes into the hammer. So now these are joined together. We can take our bigger screw, our shorter of the two bigger screws, and we can put that in the body here. And I just do like a little twist just to kind of get it started. Start going in, and if you feel it bottom out real quick, you miss the hole in the hammer. So just back it up a little bit, jiggle the hammer around until you hit the hole. Now this screw will be one. What I found, especially on like the 1858s, the Remingtons and stuff, I will use a silicone-based lubricant on some of the little parts in here to free things up and make everything nice and clicky smooth. And like this has there's a little bit of lube that's on this bolt. I'll show you guys when we get to that point. But so this is what we're looking for. Our hand should be coming up here, you know, doing its hand thing. And so at this point, now we can go back and redo everything we did a while ago. So drop the bolt in there, take our trigger, make sure it's facing forward like it should. I'm holding a little pressure on it. Take my screw, wiggle it till it goes through both of them. Yeah, I'm getting back into the flow of it. My brain only has so many gears lately, so that might be a little too tight. Just back it up. All right, so then we're going to put our dude back on here. I'm going to try to hold this up for you guys. There we go. So when we put that on there, it's all under, I don't know if you can see it flexing or not, but that's all under spring tension and stuff. So now we're going to want our big spring. And if you notice down in there, and try to see if I can get it for you guys, there's a hole, dadgummit, in the bottom of the trigger or of the hammer. And then there's this hole right here in the back of the trigger itself. And what we do is we take this and we stick it into the hammer, and then we bow the spring. And ultimately what we want to end up with is we want the spring, see if you can see through the side there, into the hole of the hammer, curved around into the back of the trigger. So we've got this, and if we hold our thumb in front of the trigger, we should get our first notch, and then we come back. And the reason we hold our thumb there is because normally the trigger guard would stop the whole thing. So we come, here's our first click. We come for our second click, pull our trigger. So that all works nice and somewhat like it should. And the reason I say somewhat like it should is because once we start putting the drag of the cylinder and all that stuff on there, that's when we might need to put some lubrication in there. But now we can put our trigger guard on. We have our the only small flat blade screw. Little Philister head. We're going to take our guy here. We're going to screw that in. There we go. So first click, second click, pull the trigger. First click, second click, pull the trigger. All right. Get me a little sip of fuel here. And I seem to be dragging my whole mat off the table. There we go. Okay. So give me just a second. I'm going to go clean up the face of this. This just came off of my printer, and I always run the face of this across a jig that I have set up that makes sure that this face is completely flat, because it prints with this side facing down, and this needs to be cleaned up, and I just got it out of the curing oven before I came in here, sit down, and do this. So give me just a second. All right, I'm back. So that, like I said, this always has like a semi-rough finish on it because of the way it prints on all these supports. So I have a jig that I've created to where I spline it up and run the face against my little miniature belt sander, and it makes sure that it's flat and parallel. So anyways, we can take this guy, and if we want to go ahead and set this in here, we can. Let me get there. So that's all together like it should be. Really nice and crisp. So let's go ahead, and we're going to, here, let me just pop that out for now, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try and decide if I want to glue this barrel or not, because I'm going to end up airbrush painting this one myself. I kind of want to not do that because I want the barrel separate when I paint. What we'll do now is we'll go ahead and put together this whole load lever real quick. So in load lever, all we got to do is take our small spring and put it in there. Now what we want to do is our load lever goes this way. If you look at the end of this, give that a second, the edge of this is cut at a slant, okay? We want the slant, the further leading point, to be forward, because that's what latches in here. If you have it upside down, it doesn't set correctly. But if you have it this way, it sets correctly. So we put our spring in, and we can hold our load lever. I've got the furthest edge down. Let me get my spring back out real quick. All right. So there's our load lever. We're going to put all this together. Now again, we'll double check and make sure that we've got the sharp edge this way. The furthest edge out, you want, you know, at the bottom of your load lever there. So I'm going to grab the medium. There's the three. Son of a, that just went shooting clean off the back of my assembly bench. We'll go, let me go ahead and put this in. You had 3 left. I don't. One of my 3 just ran away. But anyways, the middle one is the one that you want. That's going to, what you'll do is once this is all where you're wanted at, you just push this back, and you take this dowel pin and put it right in that hole, and see it goes right through there. And we're going to put a drop of glue on there in a second to keep that right there from happening when I just push that back to show you guys. Lordy, lordy. Okay. So anyways, our dowel pin is in there. The spring load part, what I'm going to do is you can I'm going to go ahead and put a little drop of glue on the top up here just to capture that. So while we're doing this, it doesn't fall back apart, but I'll be able to kind of chip away at that glue later and get that out. So when I paint, I can paint these parts separate. Let me get all this boogery stuff off of here. If it's not dried closed, there we go. Well, that came off nice and easy. So I'm just going to, and I like to do the top side because it's the side that's hidden after you assemble. And I'm just going to knock a little bit of that off, and then, you know, you want to make sure, don't use thin runny glue because you don't want to get down in there and screw up your movement of this. So now that should be set, and so now we have our spring loaded part for our load lever. Give me a second. I've either got to find that dowel pin or I'm going to go grab another one out of the shop. Just a second. All right, I'm back. I found the one back there. Give me a second. Let the blood rush back to where it's supposed to be since I was crawling up under there. All right. So what we have here now is, let's push that aside. We have the little link, and we have our load lever plunger, which the plunger, of course, goes in the body here. So what we need to do is our first dowel pin will go in here. And this will, out of the two that's left, we're going to use the shortest one. It will push into here as soon as I can hold my tongue correctly. All right, pushes in. Let's get our linkage in there and then just push. And it's going to go through to this other side. I have no nails left, so I'm just going to push that till you see it's nice and flush. You go to the other side, it's nice and flush, and our linkage moves just like it should. This will be one that you can put a drop of glue later on here if you want to, but this one fits nice and tight. You just don't want to risk losing it. But of course, once you paint this and you put that in between your paint and everything else, you may make that super tight and may not have to glue that at all. The only thing I need to double check here is the plunger gets attached. Oh, my dog is going crazy for the squirrels out behind the shop. They keep coming up on the concrete, eating acorns in front of her, and it drives her insane. I think, trying to remember how the plunger goes in here. Okay. So ultimately, if you notice, there's two sides of this plunger. There's that shape and a bigger opening. We're going to put this opening down here. I think. I say that because that makes the most logical sense at the moment. I'm going to take this and try to wiggle it through the linkage through to the other side. So it sits in there kind of nice and flush on both sides. So this is what we end up with. So let's slide the plunger up in here. And if you see this hole in here, that's where that screw ultimately ends up going. So what we're going to want to do before, and I'm not going to put any glue in there. So we have this screw that's left over right here. And we're going to take this and we're going to push this through the body into our little part here. So our load lever now moves like it should. And we can clip it forward and go forward. Now I'll probably push my barrel out. So that's basically what it looks like. Now, again, I'll have to take this back out real quick to put this rod in. I just wanted to make sure that I had that load lever flipped over the correct way. Because again, when you work on 5 or 6 different builds and kits, and especially like the Weebly design, I may show you guys what the Weebly looks like here in just a second. Because a lot of you guys have been asking me about the Weebly, and a lot of y'all are the ones waiting on the Weebly, so you just can't give me a hard time about the color it's printed in right now, because with Halloween and all this other stuff, I'm slam busy right now. So I have 2 prototype printers set to the side. So that goes in there, and see, let's try and push my barrel out because it's not glued in. But so that's the way it goes, and you pull this back and you take this, and see, you can't pull this fully out, which they did that intentionally. But so yeah, there's that. And go ahead and somewhat latch that on there. What we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to go ahead and glue our grip center onto here real quick. Now what we want to make sure is we don't get glue down in here with our hammer and all that. So basically where you're going to want to glue is across all along this face here. And I mean, you can put this on here and see, this whole face is what you're going to want to glue and attach. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to not be overly generous. Now this is something that you can do before you paint, because this can be a solid piece of the frame without worry. Because you know the frame was all one solid piece, but basically for 3D printing, it needs to be separate so that we end up with the most consistent, beautiful lines. Because this frame by itself, if this was all hollowed out, finding an orientation of print where it doesn't give you at least one bad face, it's much better to have a split line here and here that you can easily fill in and take care of and have no bad faces compared to, you know, the curve coming over too far and it doing weird step lines and all that crazy stuff. So while that's doing that, we go ahead and take our grip and we'll drop that on. We'll take our last big screw. We're going to push that through. And actually, I'm looking around. I should have one more screw here, and I'll go grab one. But it's just basically a beauty screw. I know you guys can't really see what I'm doing here. Trust me, I'm just screwing a screw. It's nothing exciting. It's just easier to hold it that way. But that's what we end up with. Just like that. In the other beauty screw, it's another one of these, and it goes right here, which I'll go grab it in just a second. But let's go ahead and can't go full release on that. Cock that back, put you in. There we go. And then gotta say, I love it, man. There's something about the old school revolvers that just, I absolutely love. I love, 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 love. Anyways, and then your orange tip that you need to put on there because that's your responsibility as a human being to follow the laws of your appropriate country at any and all times. There's my PSA. I'm not going to give my feelings on any of that, but anyways. So let's take this out. Now, I will cover just the nipples here. I don't really want to glue these in yet because, of course, I want to paint and put this together. But our nipples, you know, they've got this conical shape and then just a flat bottom. And it's just put a little glue on the flat bottom, drop it down in the hole, make sure it sets all the way down in there. And you're going to do that 6 times. But you see why I want to wait and paint mine separate, because I don't want paint to fill in all down in there, because if I do this all separate and then put these in, it keeps all my lines and all my details nice and crisp. And when you put these in, if you notice they've got like a flat side on each side, don't make them uniform going around, because that flat side, there was a key, this like a key they used to put these in, and that's how you screwed these nipples in. So you could unscrew the nipples and take them out, clean cylinders, replace the nipple if you need to, that the blasting cap set on. The blasting cap would sit on top of this nipple right here. But so like, just for like accuracy, don't turn all of these the exact same, because these would all screw in and stop in a different position. But let's and like I said, I want to wait on the nipple part because I want to paint this one myself. But again, I apologize to you guys that were waiting for me to reshoot this so that you had the changes that was done in it, because I know it's hard for me to like explain to you guys, you know, through email or through chat and stuff, those changes. But it not only simplified the assembly, but it brought it to be an even more accurate of assembly with having the flat spring for the bolt and all that, which I'm very happy about. Here, let's be legal. But so there's the Remington 1858. This is the resin version, but you can get the FDM version or the resin version, either one. They're both really super strong and stuff. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below, or you can go to the website, contact me through there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope y'all like it. I hope y'all like the resin versions, because I'm super stoked about these, and I'm slowly adding all of my kits to it. But yeah, have a good one.